Hey everybody, this is Once Bitten. Welcome to episode 3 of the U.S. Masters list review. I'm here with Jerry Parsley and Jeff Kent from New Zealand. The
How's it going?
I don't know how to say the host of Kiwi Hammer, or what would be the proper term there?
One of the hosts. Yeah, me and a guy named James Brown are doing most of the legwork at the moment.
Okay. So yeah, welcome, man. Thanks for joining us. Jerry, you want to kick us off?
Yeah. Real quick, just touch back on the U.S. Masters. It's the largest tournament in well, not the largest tournament, but the tournament that brings the top players from the 8 regions of the country together. And this year we are battling in Swede system. Quick word to thank our sponsor, Meerschaum Miniatures, for providing a whole bunch of cool stuff for the participants of this year. Really appreciate it. But for the most part, yeah, the U.S. Masters is an effort and a work of love, and there's a lot of punishment involved to the leadership who puts it together. But we are using Sweet Comp, and the comp is between 8 and 14. It's bracketed. Jeff, do you have any experience with Sweet Comp? And if you can give us a little backdrop, what your history. I know you are one of the Masters players for the Kiwis and also participate heavily with their ETC community. Want to give us a rundown on your experience with Swede and your thoughts?
Okay, so I ran one of those first Swiss tournaments in New Zealand in I think it was 2013, and I think it's the big criticism of it is it's just shifting the goalposts and there's ways to break it still. That being said, variety is the spice of life, so I think it's quite cool to see it. And what you see, especially in the 18 to 14 range, is it really dials back the power of lists compared to uncomped Warhammer. So, for example, I'm looking at a Dark Elf list in front of me that I'll get to later. It's a 12. The normal Dark Elf list I run in standard uncomped is, I think, a -8 in Swedish. So it really changes where those goalposts sit. And I think what you find is the more adaptable you are, the more able you are to see how subpar combos can still work, the greater chance you have of success. So it's a fun system, and it can have its issues. There's usually a few things it doesn't comp quite right, but yeah, it's pretty good, good fun.
Well, yeah, thanks for that. I think you're right. It certainly moves the goalposts, but it does reward good list construction. And basically, at the end of the day, the better players, the real students of the game, will be able to pick out the better unit choices. So, and on top of that, regarding the various regions and the differences between the entire country, in this massive country that we're in, it's the only system that is designed by a neutral party, in this case the Swedes. And I guess we all kind of like it, so it does have that working for it, because in some degree you can still take whatever troops you want, and at the same time at least have the satisfaction of knowing that you won't be facing the most brutal combos on a every round basis. Now, uh, I met Jeff at where were we? Arkansas, Rock Wars.
Yeah, I think a Little Rock.
Yeah, and we were kind of discussing the same discussion of the no comp versus the various comps and ETC and all that, and I kind of hinted the direction that the Masters was probably going to take, and basically, what's your opinion of? You've played in the United States for many years. You played in the Southern region. You played in the Midwest region. What did you take home to the other Kiwi folks, and what would you say an American style of play is?
Well, I think you've alluded to how big the States is, and I think um, I, I've only played in the Midwest, so I played in Chicago, a little bit in the South, so I think there's definitely regional styles of play. You read the forums, you look at where most of the US ETC team, there's New England definitely has a strong regional identity. The Midwest does. Um, so Midwest for me it seems to be out of the book purists with really hesitant to put any kind of comp on. And so what you see is a lot of bricks and socks type lists. That's what I found at least. A lot of warriors, the chaos, the demons, the guys that you can kind of line up, push it forward in big blocks. And if you try to beat that kind of strength head on with most of the other books, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble. What I didn't see though was a lot of the MSU type stuff. So I think Midwest at least, yeah, very kind of how we perceive Americans: make it big, go hard, go fast, take the big win, and not maybe as subtle as some of the other styles of Warhammer, elf avoidance, for example, or skin clouds, which is actually how I usually play. But
Right. What kind of success did you show against American players? Just speaking of that.
So I did fairly well at Adepticon. I think I came second in the best general runnings. Did all right at Rock Wars. Was a bit hungover / drunk the second day.
I know, I was drinking with you Saturday night.
Yeah, that was painful, I tried to drink away the Scourge Runner Chariot awfulness, but and then in Kansas City won a few of the local tournaments, but that was more so I think in Adepticon I brought a full-on Skin Cloud with Teto Echo and everything, and then I was using a Dark Elf avoidance list, and I think it was more the right kind of list to face that kind of brick and sock meta where it's you can just take your 13, 14 point wins, play it safe, and over the course of 5 to 6 games, that can be pretty effective.
Cool. Well, I guess we can go ahead and get started. Basically,
hey Jerry, if you would, maybe while we're reviewing the first list, you could go to the Wargamers USA site and post the link where viewers can look at the Masters list.
Yeah. That's what I do right when we start every list. Right. Just basically, I was just waiting until we actually get to the list. But I'm on the same wavelength, and that's what I do right now. But let me introduce you to these guys first, so I can do that while you guys are talking. The first player, actually, you might have met him, Jeff, at Rock Wars. He was the winner of one Spitten's favorite tournaments, Buckeye Battles, huge 100-man event. He represents the Midwest, Jake Martin, and Jake is bringing his Dark Elves, and he's pitted against famous / infamous player, sometimes known as the Will Ferrell of American Warhammer, everybody's friendly neighbor, Mike Hengel. He's also the chairman of the West Coast region, and he is one of the unfortunate souls that have to deal with my panicked email / forum posts on a regular basis playing Orcs and Goblins. So, Jeff, if you want to take us away looking at Jake's list, I'll go ahead and do the postings.
Okay, sounds good. So I assume people can see it at the moment.
Not
so
yet,
Jake's got no lords, which will be probably about comp rather than efficiency. So he's got a Master as his general. He's got a 1-up in Ogre Blade, a Storm Shield, and Dragonbane Gem. So this kind of build is pure offense, and that's the kind of build that's going to go hunting war machines, small units of chaff, because with only that 1 save, 2 wounds, he's always going to be at risk of giving away his extra 100 general points. But played smart, perfectly viable master and general choice. Death Hag on Aldrin, nothing too crazy there. An Obsidian Blade to make sure they can go through Ethereals. And then it's got 2 level 2 sorcerers on metal. So he's picked up a scroll, a staff, and metal is a pretty good choice for the rest of his list. I'll talk about why later. So he's got 28 Witch Elves, who you presume will probably go with the Cauldron of Blood, 3 units of 5 Dark Riders, and there's a bit of a comp hit on that. I think he gives up 14, 24 points, which is a bit for core. But essentially, units of 5 Dark Riders are probably the best core unit in the game, in my opinion, at the moment. So, well worth paying that. 10 Cold 1 Knights. And now I think these are probably a bit of a comp sink as well to get his comp down lower. But at the end of the day, they still put out a shitload of strength 6 to strength 4 attacks on the charge. Fairly useful. Downside, of course, is that they're stupid. He's got no character in there, so any kind of flying characters or fast characters are quite likely to try to use this unit to as a stepping stone into the backfield of his army. 18 Executioners, solid unit, also gives another unit that you can pop the Cauldron down, provides a bit of uncertainty to his opponent and flexibility for him. 3 Repeater Bolt Throwers, everyone knows what they do, and he's got 10 Sisters of Slaughter. So not an optimal unit, not something you find in a lot of armies, but the key here is he's managed to only pay 190 points for those with full command and a Banner of Flame. And he only pays 4 comp points. So this is a big concession. But at the same time, though, this unit still serves a purpose. With that Banner of Flame, it can tie up trolls, anything with regen, select better ward saves for itself, and really hold on to it for a while, which is something a lot of the list can't have that staying power. It also means that if he can get those on the side, disrupt ranks, those 28 Witch Elves are likely to go straight through something. So I think it's a pretty capable list. It's going to take some finesse to have to play, and it's got a few bad matchups. It's not going to like Death Magic, but we shouldn't see a whole bunch of Death Magic at between 8 to 14. Yeah, it should do right, and has enough chaff to ensure that his Witch Elves can get delivered to where they need to go.
Yeah. Once bitten, you want to look over Hengel's list?
I said, yeah, sure. Sorry, if you're watching this, I have to have my mute on or else there's a huge echo, so there'll be delays sometimes. Yeah, so Hengel's got a Black-Orc War Boss leading the way, who's got a Shield, Glittering Scales, Talisman of Preservation, Potion of Toughness. Got a Savage Orc Shaman level 4, Lucky Shrunken Head, the Golden Sigil Sword. He's got, in the heroes, 3 Savage Orc heroes. So one's a BSB, the Great Weapon, and Mork's War Banner. I don't know what that does, by the way. Do either of you?
I think it's. I'll go check now. I'll be right back.
The other 2 just have Great Weapons. It's got a Goblin Big Boss with light armor on a Giant Wolf, Shrieking Blade, Enchanted Shield, Dragonbane Gem, and then a Night Goblin Shaman level 2 with the Dispel Scroll and the Ruby Ring. Of course, he's got this huge horde of Savage Orcs, so you can put his Savage Orc characters in there. Gave him bows, which you just don't see very often. And the Big Stabbo, which I haven't seen very often. 2 units of 5 Goblin Wolf Riders with Spears and Shields. 21 Night Goblins with 2 Fanatics. 7 Trolls, 2 Goblin Wolf Chariots, and then 2 Orc Boar Chariots. So, yeah, Jeff, just interrupt me whenever you actually find that. But
Yeah, I've got it here now. So a unit with Mork's War Banner has magic resistance D6, and you roll for it each time. The first time you need it per turn.
Okay.
And all magic items belonging to enemy models that are in base contact with the bear do not work. It's so it's not terrible, but it's one of those 100-point banners that you never see because no one takes 100-point items.
Yeah, that's wow. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I see a list with 2. I mean, 1 main combat unit, another decent combat unit with 7 trolls. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I didn't get to the rare. I had to scroll down. He has a Rock Lava and 2 Doom Divers. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Doom Divers. I think they do real well. So he has some range threat. You know, his magic will be strong enough with the level 4, and then he's just kind of got support units, some redirectors, some chariots. So I mean, Mike is obviously a great player, so I'm sure he knows what he's doing with that list. I don't know. I don't think I like it against the Dark Elf list. I think maybe I'm just biased towards Dark Elves, but I just think that they will be equipped to control the game in a way that I don't see Mike's list being able to do.
See, I almost disagree. I think it's a good list. He's got the overmatch magically with the level 4 and the level 2, I think a lot will come down to who gets what spells. So, if that level 4 can get the Foot of Gork as it usually should, and then almost as importantly, if the level 2 can get Vindictive Glare, suddenly he's putting down a lot of magic missiles onto the Dark Riders, which can either be stopped or can't be stopped if Jake wants any chance at stopping the Foot of Gork. But of course, on the other hand, if Jake manages to get Final Trans and it's just 6 dicing Final Trans on the Savage Orcs, it's going to pull points for the characters really fast, I think.
All right.
So, what are we thinking? Who pulls this one down? The winner of Adepticon or the six-time GT champion from the West Coast?
Well, like I said, I have Jake, and I'm thinking it's like a 12-8.
I actually think it'll be a 11-9, 12-8 win to Michael. I think he's in a situation where he gets to sit back and shoot, whereas Jake has to come and win decisively in combat, I think, to get anything off Michael.
I guess I'm the tiebreaker. Personally, I think this one is close. I really like Mike's list. A lot of Orcs and Goblins are fielding similar lists. Looks like they're from the same brain trust in some regards. Well, same with the Dwarves anyway. The thing that I do like with Jake, though, is Jake. I mean, it depends who maybe gets first turn. If the Dark Riders can shut down those Doom Divers fast enough, I don't think there's anything in Mike's army that can stand up to the Witch Elves. Now, of course, Foot of Gork is the wild card. I mean, but then again, Foot of Gork steps on literally everything. So that's just kind of like saying Mind Razor would win, or not Mind Razor anymore, but like Purple Sun or something, So this is as close to a 10-10 as I think I've seen. I think maybe slight edge to the Dark Elves, All right.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll go along with everyone else. I just think that dude, I'll say this: it's just Battle Line being played?
No, actually, that's the thing, and we probably should have gone over this. Here are the Master Cards. It's a 6-round tournament. For the first 4 rounds, you get different Master Cards that you can play face down. You have everything from Blood and Glory to Assassinating Generals to trying to keep units out of your deployment zone or put your biggest point unit in your deployment zone. So you place the cards face down. And what the U.S. Masters Committee did is we decided on an 8 to 14 comp level, which is the equivalent of 600 points apart. But the highest scenario card, if you get the primary and both objectives, is also worth 4 total points, or in a 150 breakpoint, 600 battle points. So it's so you have basically 2 ways to catch up, and in some regards it does help poorer comp armies catch up, because if they get their scenario points, then the comp difference isn't that big of a deal. So they're all initially battle line, but with the thing, terrain, buildings, hills, and impassable, all block line of sight. So
okay. Thanks. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't Dawn Attack or something like that, in which case I would not be backing Orcs and Goblins ever.
Yeah, someone didn't look at the rules pack for their.
There's no need for consensus. We have different picks. That's just fine.
We'll see how it goes then.
Okay, well, let's go to the second matchup for this episode, episode 3. Now, this individual, I don't know too much about. From my understanding, he was a last-minute entry. He's from the Pacific Northwest. His name is Jordan Ross. As an alternate from a new region, to be painfully obvious, or whatever, he's just not really known on the national scale. So I really don't know. There's a big question mark of what he's capable of. Um, he wasn't qualified on the original team. I believe he was one of the alternates that stepped up, or a spot fell down to him. But he's bringing Warriors to Chaos. And the good news is he is drawn against another new player from the Southeast, Bruce Cherry. Now, Bruce qualified on points. We know that much. He was not an alternate. He looks like I jumped a match ahead, but
No,
yeah,
I have it that you're talking about Jordan Ross. He's playing
yeah,
Radigan, right?
yeah. Jordan Ross against Jeff Radigan. Okay, so I jumped ahead with Bruce Curry. Okay, so Radigan we do know. Okay, that's even worse for Jordan in some regards. Radigan, I think, was the only person to outright win 2 grand tournaments this year. Normally, 1 or 2 people do it, the usual suspects like the Mike Carrolls, the Owen Whelans. But Radigan, he won Bayou Battles in the South, and he also won the Alamo. He's with the Houston Area Wargamers Club, the Hogs out of Houston, and Radigan brings some heat, you know. So I guess we'll go ahead and you want to take it away, Once Bitten?
Yep. So yeah, so Jordan's bringing Warriors of Chaos. He's being led by a Chaos Lord on a disc. So he's marked of Zinch, Great Weapon, Shield, Armor of Destiny, Dawnstone, Scaled Skin, Soul Feeder. He's got a Sorcerer Lord, level 4 Lord of Death. Unmarked, it has a Chaos Familiar, Talisman Preservation, Charm Shield. He's on a Demonic Mount with Barding. So he's got a Exalted Hero BSB, Talisman of Endurance, Mark of Zinch, Great Weapon, Dragon Helm, Demonic Mount. The Sorcerer level 2, Unmarked Lord of Metal with a Scroll. 2 Chaos Chariots, 5 Fast Cav, unit of 17 Warriors with Halberds, Shields, Banner of Swiftness. It's got a Chimera with Regen, a Gorbeast Chariot, and 3 Skull Crushers with Ensorcelled Weapons and the Gleaming Pennant. So, yeah. After doing list after list after list, you just see some things. Yeah, there's the Fighty Chaos Lord on a disc. This one actually has Chaos Warriors, which is kind of weird. Some chariots. Yeah. I'm not knocking it, but it doesn't stand out to me. It seems like it's Chaos Warriors. It can work, certainly. I don't see it dominating, and please help me see something that I'm not seeing. I don't see it dominating any particular phase of the game.
I tend to agree with you, Once Bitten. It's yeah, it's just kind of typical Warriors. I mean, stuff can come together, but it's only going to do. I think one place it could come together, and one of the reasons it's earned its probably 8.8 comp is a level 4 death is pretty dangerous at this level.
Yeah, true enough. All right, what do High Elves have for us?
Okay, well, I think this this list is actually pretty cool and a pretty good example of list writing for synergy, but with some creativity. So, High Elves, he's got a Prince, and it's essentially the Cav Prince mounted with a Giant Blade for Strength 7 with the 1-up, re-rollable Dragon Helm, Potion of Full Hardness for more attacks, and he's going to be protected against magic by a certain banner, which I'll mention later. And now for kind of the balls out risk, and I think is quite innovative. He's put an Archmage on a Star Dragon with the Lore of Light. So he's got Warrior Bane just to allow him to go through a anything ethereal, nice and easy. Scroll of Shielding, Golden Crown of Atrazar to try and bounce off the first wound or so. Iron Crystal Icon, Star Dragon, Lore of Light. So quite cool. So putting a Prince on a Star Dragon is going to up your comp. It's going to take a lot of comp points pretty quick, but doing it with an Archmage is relatively efficient. And even though I'm sure in many of his games that Archmage is going to get shot off the top of the Star Dragon, he won't actually give up any points for it. So it actually allows him to have Beat Stick in the form of a Star Dragon, and as well as the main caster for a Light Council, which you'll see later. So he's also got a Noble BSB, and this guy is on horse carrying the banner of the World Dragon to run interference for that prince. He's got a Noble who is flying on a Griffin with the Reaver Bow, Charm Shield, Swooping Strike. So this kind of guy will probably be used in tandem with the Star Dragon. So hit a unit with both the Star Dragon and the Griffin. Rely on those two Thunderstomps to go straight through and out the other side quick before you get stuck on a Griffin in combat, which is never a great thing. He's got a level 2 mage with Lore of Light and an Earthing Rod, and a level 1 mage with Lore of Light and a Scroll. So he's managed to get himself a Strength 6 banishment, which is nothing to laugh at, especially at comp 8.7, which he's coming in, and that's as long as the Archmage is hanging out near the two mages. In core, he's got 12 Silver Helms, so that's his Silver Helm bus for his Noble and his BSB. Become relatively tough once they've got Banner of the World Dragon on them, and with that Prince at Strength 7, they're swinging pretty hard going through most things. 2 units of 13 archers, full command to fill things out. 3 Eagle Claw bolt throwers, and an eagle. So yeah, long story short, I think it's a pretty cool, innovative list. It's got a lot of flexibility. He can, sit back and banish you and shoot you. He can charge forward with a Star Dragon and a Griffin and go through a lot of the smaller infantry units that you'll see in this comp range. Look just like that. And more heavily armored threats can be dealt with by the Cav Prince, and then say the Star Dragon coming in the flank of the unit that they've pinned. So I think it's a solid list and shows a pretty good understanding of how the game works at this level.
Yeah, I like that the High Elf list. I like it against that Warriors list too. I think I have Jeff probably about a 14-point win, 14-6.
Yeah, 14-6, 15-5. I mean, depends how that Warriors guy plays. If he, sees that he's probably overmatched and plays conservatively and keeps those characters safe, hides discs behind, you shouldn't lose flying characters with 3 upward saves unless you're being pretty silly. As long as you keep it out of banishment range. It depends how cautious that Warriors player goes. I think if he goes, hell for leather, he could find himself in a lot of trouble pretty quick.
And certainly with the terrain rules in effect, he can hide points and not get blasted by the bolt throwers as well.
I don't know. I could see that dragon flying 20 inches to get line of sight to cast banishment. Of course, it wouldn't be strength 6 at that point, I guess.
Yeah, it's strength. Banishment's only a real problem once it gets to strength 6, strength 4, strength 7. As I see it.
All right, so we are going with the 2-time GT winner, Ratgan.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. The third match for this episode features a person who was on the top tables of last year's Masters. Last year he was bringing the Light Council-esque Empire list. His name's Jake Martin from the Dark Star Club up in Massachusetts, another Northeast guy. This year he's fielding Orcs and Goblins. Now, from my understanding, Martin is a little taking a back seat on the tournament scene, like some members of his club, but even so, his damage he dealt to his region in the spring and summer qualified him early, and he's back with the vengeance. Maybe a little practice, but we'll see if he can repeat the level of success he had last year. He will be facing Bruce Curry. I think, that is the individual from the Southeast that qualified via points. Now, I'm not. I did not find out if he was part of a club or not, but he's fielding Dark Elves, and unlike a lot of other regions who had to bring in an alternate or two, Bruce just hammered his way up through the rankings, and he hung in there with a lot of the Risky Business Club because, and we know them from the Mid-Atlantic, and they're a strong group of guys. So to stay ranked in that region was no easy feat. Jeff, what are we looking like for Martin? How are the Orcs and Goblins going to dismantle Bruce, or is Bruce going to win this one?
Okay, so just looking at Jacob Martin, and it's yeah, it's one of the straightforward Orc and Goblin lists that I guess you guys have probably seen a few already. It does what it says on the tin. So he's got the Great Shaman with the Lucky Shrunken Head, and it's level 3, I believe. He's got the Savage Orc War Boss, who's kitted out with Strength, Glittering Scales, Fencer's Blades, Dragon Maid Gem. So he's going to rely on that 5-up ward save, but pretty hard to hit with Glittering Scales and Fencer's Blades. I think 6s by most troops. Got a Black Orc BSB with, he's also gone for Orcs Warbanner, so this unit is not going to go down to, essentially not going to go down at all to magic missiles or anything but the big nuke spells. And Black Orc, always a choice. I always take Black Orc BSB when I'm playing Orcs and Goblins. It's too important to be able to stop animosity. He's got 2 Goblin Big Boss chaff guys, one on a wolf, one on a gigantic spider, and they've got the usual, one's got the 3-up, I think they both have 3-ups, and that gigantic spider is actually pretty well kitted out. But these guys are just going to be running interference, trying to pick on enemy units of chaff, getting in the way. Savage Orc Big Boss with a great weapon, 79 points, it's cheap, it's pretty efficient, yep, I can see that. Savage Orc Shaman is level 2, so the level 2 and the level 3, what he's probably trying to do is spread them out a bit, gives him another extra roll for Footed Gork, and it also means that he can put Footed Gork onto the level 2, dice it, and risk a lot less should he suck himself off down a hole. Core 2 units of 5 Forest Goblin Spider Riders. Not a huge fan of those over Wolf Riders, but they'll do the trick just the same. 20 Night Goblins, which are just a effect delivery system for 2. 40 Savage Orcs, and these ones don't have bows, just full command. 2 units of 8 Trolls, 2 Doom Divers, and a Rock Lobber, coming in at a pretty healthy 12.3. All in all, I think it's pretty straightforward. A working Goblin list does what it says on the tin. It's got, the 40 Savage Orcs, which are going to be very, very difficult to actually get the points for anyone. 8 Trolls, which are never fun to deal with. It's a little bit light on chaff in terms of chariots or more wolf riders, but ultimately, a lot of times with Orcs and Goblins, the chaff just ends up giving away points without doing too much useful. So he's probably going to sit in a corner like green dwarfs do, with the trolls in front and the orcs in the middle, and shoot you with the Doom Divers, Footed Gork you, and then grind and hope the trolls and Savage Orcs don't die anything too big. But yeah, solid list, but nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I agree. Seems pretty solid. So Bruce's Dark Elves. So he has a Dreadlord on a with the typical heavy armor shield, Sea Dragon Cloak. He has a Lance, Dawnstone, Cloak of Twilight, Dark Pegasus. He has Supreme Sorceress, level 4 Lore of Metal, the Power Stone, Obsidian Lodestone, and the Ruby Ring. She's mounted. Death Hag on BSB with the Rune of Cain. Level 2 Lore of Light with a scroll. 2 units of 6 Fast Cav with shields, musician, and standard. So getting some fortitude there. Then 12 Witch Elves, 17 Witch Elves, 5 Harpies, 10 Shades with great weapons full command, 17 Blackguard, 18 Executioners, and 2 Reaper Bolt Throwers. This is reminding me of a 7th edition list, and I don't say that as a slam to it. I'm just saying, there's just a lot of small to mid-size elite infantry there. I think this list, tell me if I'm missing something here, but I think this list would be really hard-pressed to get any points out of that Savage Orc unit. So the game or the trolls, unless there's flaming that I didn't see. Yeah, so I don't know.
I tend to agree. I mean, Witch Elves have enough attacks that around overcomes trolls, but it hasn't got a lot of shooting. It's actually fairly minimal. So I think the chaff that the Savage Orcs bring to the table will be just enough that it's going to hold things up. It's going to choke it up, and yeah, it could be rough. I think I would probably give this to the Orc and Goblin list.
Yeah, of course it does have level 4 lore of metal, the transmutation and stuff, but yeah, I'm leaning towards the orcs and goblins.
Yeah, I mean it all depends on how well the deployment is. I think it's really important Orcs and Goblins in this situation. Yeah, do hang out in that corner in that castle and not come out because you've got a Dreadlord who's perfectly capable of popping over the top, but that's pretty easy to actually stop. And that Dreadlord is a bit of a one-hit wonder. With has to be sure he's got support from somewhere.
Well, the interesting thing is, and something we have kind of overlooked, at least for the first 4 rounds of the scenarios in play. So there could be some encouragement, like there's one scenario in particular that whoever has Fortitude in the middle of the board or getting Fortitude in the opponent's deployment zone, that can actually shake up the initial, because there's a lot of dwarf lists in this event. There's a lot of green orcs, green orc dwarf lists in this event. A lot of lists that play, point denial, shoot, take what they can, and then advance. So having all the scenarios on day 1, the first 4 games, could make for some interesting results to kind of give everyone kind of even footing going into day 2 when it's just straight battle line. But that said, I don't know if Bruce's list has the tools to deal with Jacob's. I think it's just a matter of his units are too small. Even if he had 86, maybe the Blackguard and put more Witch Elves in, that would make me more comfortable with it. But right now, those medium, like you were saying, once bitten, those medium-sized units can get taken down quick by Doom Divers, by Rock Lobbers, and then you're sitting there fighting trolls or Savage Orcs or something. It's a little risky play. There's not a lot of bolt thrower targets to boot either.
Yeah, I mean, to my thoughts, when you play MSU, and he's kind of more MMU, but you got to be fast and you got to be maneuverable, and so he's relatively, as fast as infantry can be, and I wonder if he's, looking on that Laura Light for to pull a few tricks there, but the list definitely has potential if if the Orcs and Goblins were to come straight out and play. I could see this list being able to turn it in the wrong direction and do a few things, but it's not an easy list to use.
Right. Okay, well, let's go to the next episode, next matchup. We are looking at Chris Syke from Texas. He is fielding, or from Louisiana, from the South region. He is the TO of, I guess, the aptly named Paul Koch GT, and Koch stands for Carnival of Chaos. It's happening in New Orleans. I guess maybe it's a New Orleans type themed event. It's happening this Memorial Day, so he is the TO for that, and he qualified for the Masters via high results. He got 5th place in Alamo. He's just a very consistent player. He's rocking Ogre Kingdoms, and the person he's playing is from the Southeast as well, like Bruce. He is Nicholas Brady. Brady was a last-minute addition. Their chairman, David Reed, had to drop due to some work-related responsibilities. And Nicholas Brady, I think, was number 13 or 14, jumping in at the last minute to make sure the Southeast rocks with the full team. So he's fielding Bretonnians against Ogres. I guess let's start this off. Jeff, what are you thinking? What's the Ogres looking like?
Oh, it's nice to see an ogre list. They're pretty much extinct in New Zealand. So he's got a Slaughtermaster level 4 on Heavens, which I think is an excellent lore for ogres, even though you have to then pay the butcher tax. Bruiser BSB with a 4-up ward, no surprises there. He's got a butcher who's just there to carry the scroll and let the Slaughtermaster take lore of Heavens. A hunter with a harpoon launcher, beast killer, charm shield, dragon mage, gem, potion, strength. So um, not usually a fantastic choice in uncomped Warhammer, but he's here as a comp concession. Gets to spend 190 points and only has to spend 4 Swedish comp points. 4 units of 10 Noblars, which I really like. I'm not a big fan of infantry in the game, but I'm a big fan of the really shitty, cheap infantry. I think it's got a good place, especially if they don't cause panic. 2 units of 3 bulls, so I guess I always consider those the suicide bulls. 8 Iron Guts with a banner of discipline, standard champ, lookout Noblar. No surprises there. We've all seen the Gut Star. 2 units of 5 Lead Belchers, 2 Saber Tusks. Probably due to the comp hit on the 3rd Saber Tusk, possibly. 4 Man-Eaters, Poison with Brace of Pistols, Banner of Eternal Flame, Swift Stride, and an Iron Blaster. So, looking at this list, no real surprises what he's doing. He's going to be using Lore of Heavens, going for harmonic convergences, and looking to really shoot the shit out of people. And it's a relatively effective way of doing it for ogres, I think. And if you're expecting a lot of elves, for example, or MMU, MSU type stuff, then yeah, Lead Belchers can actually cause them real problems if they're re-rolling ones. So yeah, relatively solid list.
Sorry, struggling with mute. Yeah, it's kind of just a real shooty ogre army with only 1 Iron Blaster. When I see Man-Eaters, I think 4 makes them much more manageable than I normally. I'm not really too worried about them with only 4. But whatever. Yeah, so sit back.
It's just a few shots, you know. It's for those units of 5 or 6 Dark Riders.
Yeah.
4 Man-Eaters is still a real issue.
Right. All right, so he's going against Bretonnians, being led by a lord with the virtue of heroism and Heartwood Lance, with the Grail Vow and the armor of Agaluf. Level 4 Prophetess, Lore of Life, with a potion sacré, however you pronounce that. There's BSB, Virtue of the Impetuous Knight, so he gets the plus D6 to the first charge. Rampeter Standard. There's a level 2 with a scroll, Lore of Beasts, 3 units of 12 Knights of the Realm, Banner of Shaloms, which is you cannot stand and shoot against it, Gleaming Pennant, and Banner of Eternal Flame. 2 units of Fast Cav, 1 has a banner. Then the points, 10 Grail Knights, Banner of Defense, and I've never used the Banner of Defense. I've seen the name, but I don't even know what it does. And a Trebuchet. So it's unusual to see Brett lists now without, a million paladins. Instead, he has just that huge Grail Knight unit. So I think that's risky. Put the Lord in with the Grail Knights, and you use the Lore of Life Prophetess to hopefully resurrect them because they're relatively fragile for their points. Of course, you use it, the Dwellers people as well, but it seems to me that he's using Knights of the Realm as like a really heavy chaff. And then he's got his ballistic missile, just this Grail Knight unit with the BSB and the Lord in there going all the way across the table. So
yeah, it's pretty yeah, it does one thing, doesn't it? I mean, that's always the issue with Brett's.
I don't like the lack of a second trebuchet. I think the suite system gives Trebs at a discounted rate, maybe just because he wanted to go with the 10 Grail Knights. But that's one thing I noticed about this list that I wasn't too keen on.
Well, the problem is anybody playing that ogre list, if they're worth their salt, they're just all you have to do is just chaff up the Grail unit and shoot the living crap out of it, and so then it's just a matter of how many points do you give up to those Knight of the Realm units as they're going after your units of 3 bulls or 5 lead belters or whatever. But they're manageable, and but I think you can just focus your shooting on the Grail Knights, take that huge points, take it out of the game, and it's not too big of a deal to win on points after that.
Yeah, I agree. I think the ogres have enough chaff combined with enough shooting to do the job. I mean, there's level 4 with life could always do something hilarious, which completely swings the game the other way. So as long as the prophetess is alive, though, the Bretts are in for a big win potentially until the very end.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess, and I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lisbon, but I don't think we've picked a Bretonnian list yet of the matchups, and there's quite a few.
We picked me.
Oh yeah, well, you picked you. I picked you too, but that's not even in the main event. You got to play in to get into the event.
Yeah, true enough. True enough.
I think I would expect a small to decent win to the ogres, with the provision that there's always it's a 26% chance, I think, of getting an irresistible 4/6 dice, and if that happens with dwellers, then it's probably going to go game to the Bretts really quick.
Yeah. Okay. Well, looks like we've got the ogres for a win there. Rocking out with the next matchup, it's all the way from SoCal, Fred Whitney, 5-Up Fred, they call him. He is from the West Coast Hammer Time podcast. Also one of my more favorite people to drink with. Great guy. He is a veteran from last year where he brought his, Leviathan-themed demon army. He will be playing the first-year Midwest chairman, Ryan Nickel. Ryan is just came off a win at Wapaka this past January. He rode in with some broken Emmerich or Malekith, one of those M times cheese, but Ryan was at the Rock Horse with both of us. I don't know if you spoke to him or not, but he's a hell of a guy, and obviously a very, very, very good player. So this matchup, Wood Elves, High Elves, looks like it could be interesting. Once Bitten, would you like to kick us off with the 5-Up Fred's Wood Elf list?
Yeah, sure. So the Wood Elves got a level 4 caster. By the way, sorry about that, it's hard to read. With the Talisman Preservation, Spell Scroll, Trickster Shard, mounted, bringing the high magic. Then we've got a BSB. Also mounted, Charm Shield, Opal Amulet, Hail of Doom, Starfire Shafts, and a Spear. Got a level 1 Lord of Metal with the Hex Scroll. That's like the 4th time I've seen it this tournament. Love it. And then 4 Branchwraiths, which I don't think I've ever played against them. So.
Well, guess what? Ryan Nickelback's playing against 4 of them, so that's enough for everybody.
So in core, we've got 3 units of Blade Guard, 2 units with 12 True Flight, and 1 with 11 with Starfire. 2 units of 6 Wild Riders, 10 Sisters of the Thorn, Musician Standard and Lichbone Pennant, and 6 Scouts with Starfire, 6 Way Watchers, and 2 Eagles. I think this is a list that, if it was against a Bretonnian army, I think I would probably pick Bretonnia to win. Sometimes matchups matter. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I could see this one having some problems with speed and with resilience against relatively low strength shooting. But
yeah, it's a bit light on anti-armor.
Yeah, well, I think what he's doing is he's certainly rocking protecting the Archmage, putting her with the Sister of the Thorns. So you're not going to get those points with High Magic. He's going to get the favorable combats with the Wild Riders, and maybe the branch rates are doing like the double chaff, but they're almost too expensive to run out at 75 points a pop to do that to protect Blade Guard. So I'm curious to see what his plan is with the branch wraiths. You know.
So I think looking at the branch rates and you looking at his comp as well, I think he took a really tough 2,200 point army, and then he took 300 points of branch rates.
Yeah, but that comp still puts him all the way down at 10.8, which, you know, I don't know. I mean, in this type of meta, I mean, is that too far down for an avoidance style list or a missile type list?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's a gamble, definitely. But I think, if it was a 2,200 point list and you took those branch rates away, that comp would be a very good 2,200 point list.
Yeah. Now this is, I mean, it is a typical and a good avoidance Wood Elf list. I mean, he can avoid stuff like you said. He's got the fast cav. He's got everything's. So many of the things are fast cav or at least skirmish or something, and all of it hit at range. Question is, I think a list like this just depends on the matchup.
Mm. Okay, then I'll shoot into the high elf stand that Ryan Nichols is taking. So as his general, he's got an Archmage who is level 4 high. He's got a 4-up ward and a power scroll. Nothing wrong with high magic at all. He's got a Dragon Mage, which is I like Dragon Mages in Swedish because they're practically free in terms of Swedish comp, and they're still a dragon, even if they're a bit shitty. He's got Dragon Armor, Enchanted Shield, Dispel Scroll, Gem of Sunfire, so relatively decent save, and a ward against Flaming, which will be great for all those Starfire arrows. A Noble BSB, who's standing on foot, 21 Spearmen with full command, 2 times 13 Archers, 5 Illyrian Reavers, so I have the usual reservations about that for any core high elf that doesn't have pretty much the Silver Helms. Core is always really tough for high elves. Special is 24 Swordmasters with Standard Discipline, 5 Dragon Princes with the Flaming Banners, Great Eagle, 2 Bolt Throwers, and Frostheart Phoenix. So I've run a similar list to this under Swedish, and that Frostheart Phoenix can actually turn the Dragon Mage into a real issue by enhancing his survivability. That being said, not a huge fan. I think I far prefer the first high elf list that I've looked at, even though this one actually is a higher comp.
Okay.
So,
yeah. So what do you think? How do you think they match up?
I like the Wood Elves actually. Although the 2 dragons the 2 flyers could cause real issues. In fact, actually, I switch. I'm giving it to the high elves. I think the 2. I don't know. What does 20 True Flight arrows do to a Phoenix, to a Frostheart?
Not a lot.
12 hits.
I mean, yeah, but you got to look at terrain too. I mean, those things can hide.
Yeah, no, I think the 2 flyers are going to probably prove just too quick for him to get to grips with, because there's other threats as well.
I want you to know that I love that you did that out loud, because when we were reviewing the list, I started off thinking this is totally to the Wood Elves, and then after you reviewed the High Elf list, I'm like, no, I kind of like the High Elves in this.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be a little bit too quick. He's got, with the Dragon Mage and Archmage, he's got plenty of magic missiles, so he's going to pick up those small units. The Swordmasters are vulnerable to getting shot down by a Wood Elf list, but frankly, if he does that, he's ignoring so many other bigger threats. the Dragon Princes will go to the Waystalkers because they're just easy points for Way Watchers or whatever the hell they're called. But I think the Frosty Dragon Maid and then the level 4 high is pretty solid.
Yeah, I'll probably go 14-6 high elves.
Cool. Yeah, I'd agree something along those lines.
All right. Ryan Nickel is a pick to beat 5 Fred. So not looking good for West Coast. All right. The sixth match of episode 3 features the Bald Red Menace, Roger Jan. Roger, he is finished the year as the #1 ranked Northeast player, the #4 ranked Mid-Atlantic player, but because he lives in Maryland, he's joining the Mid-Atlantic region. Hell of a nice guy, and right now he's known as Golden CCG, which is a pretty elite club based out of Maryland, and that's also has ETC players on it. But right now he's showing the most success, so he's kind of like the golden child, and it couldn't happen to a better guy having a string of success. There's some criticisms that he maybe just plays overpowered Warriors list, but I guess we'll review that. And his opponent is Eric West. Now that tournament we went to, Rock Wars, Eric was the Greek-themed high elf list who won Best General, and Eric is the one guy who beat me when I went there Game 4. With all my stuff sucking itself down a hole and exploding. But Eric's a smart player. Once I suffered some unfortunate circumstances, he was smart enough to hide and not give me a chance to get back into the game. And winning Best General at an 80-man event means Eric knows his stuff as well. He qualified, I think, through Buckeye Battles. I could be wrong, but he was right up there in the top 1, 2, 3, or 4 at a number of the Midwest events. Once bitten, what is Roger's game plan for this one?
Well, let's go through his list. He's got a Chaos Lord on a Mark of Tzeentch on a disc, Talisman of Preservation. So he's got, they're almost all the same. He's got a Dragon Helm, Trickster Shard, Charm Shield, Flaming Breath, and a Great Weapon. So Exalted Hero, BSB with Armor of Destiny, Scaled Skin, Tzeentch, Great Weapon. 2 Chaos Sorcerers, looks like they're both level 2. They both have Shadow. Looks like one has a slightly better armor save. 2 Slaanesh Chariots, 2 Slaanesh Fast Cav units, 22 Chaos Marauders, Mark of Tzeentch, 3 Dragon Ogres, Chimera with Breath Attack and Regen, a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, which is fantastic. I haven't seen that in a while, and a Hell Cannon. Yeah, so that's interesting. I kind of like the list because I think it'd be fun to play and play against. But part of that means that I don't see it necessarily being overwhelming. So he's got the typical maneuverable, hard-hitting Chaos Lord. He's got foot troops that don't scare me. Dragon Ogres are so small I'm not worried about. Chimeras are always good. Hell Cannon's always good. I don't know. He's probably going to rely on his skill to win it.
Imagine that.
So it's not a Jacob Brandon. I'll turn it over to you, Jeff.
Yeah, so High Elves, he's got a Prince on a Star Dragon, which I love. I think Star Dragons are awesome. 4-up ward, so pretty defensively kitted out. So he's just meant to stay alive while Mr. Star Dragon does all the hard work. Archmage, level 4 on Lore of Heavens. Noble on a steed with the PSB. 23 Spearmen with the Gleaming Pennant, light armor. 2 times 10 archers, 2 times 5 reavers. Reavers are a good choice. I like them. 11 Dragon Princes that BSB will be hanging out with, so those guys will hit relatively hard, pretty tough. They got the Razor Standard as well, so they can punch through stuff. 5 Shadow Warriors who are just going to be hanging out, 3 Bolt Throwers, and 10 Sisters of Avalorn. I think it's a pretty well-rounded army. It's got 2 threats in terms of close combat. There's many units would not want to get charged by 11 Dragon Princes with a hero. No one out there likes to get charged by Star Dragon. Lore of Heavens, very good versatile lore. The Comet can give them really good board control. A few magic missiles in there, a few buffs. Yeah, relatively good, solid all-rounder, like you expect from High Elves.
The one thing that jumps out to me is with Roger's list, we've seen him play high comp warriors that usually, I guess, bunker up into a Tzeentch or an infantry star with a bunch of demon-seated guys that just jump out and slay people. What was unusual is I didn't expect the Chaos Marauders or Dragon Ogres or the Shaggoth. I haven't seen him field those before. Maybe he knows something that no one else does, or maybe it's too much of a gamble. What are you guys thinking? Who pulls this one down, Eric or Roger?
I'm leaning towards Eric. I think I think Eric can pick apart what Roger has.
Yeah, I mean, High Elves are always going to have the advantage in this matchup in terms of they just have more ways to grab points. So I think you're looking at kind of a lot of the small weird units that Roger has. I think his plan is Lore of Shadow can turn any unit into a threat, not just through Mind Razor, but something gets down to toughness 1 or 2. All of a sudden Chaos Marauders are going to go straight through it. It's so he's kind of going to do that MSU, MMU type thing, using Lore of Shadow to hit the right place at the right time. I don't think it's will necessarily be that big, but I still like the High Elves.
Yeah, I've got him like a 12-8, 13-7, something like that.
Yeah, I think that'd be fairly reasonable.
All right, picking High Elves over Warriors of Chaos. Okay, the 7th match brings in another newcomer to the U.S. Masters. He is a member or close friends with the Garage Hammer podcast. Alex Nikotenko, he is their resident Dark Elf player, and I don't know if you played with him at Adepticon, but he finished 2nd at Adepticon. He's a old school player, playing since the 90s. He knows the stuff, but he's not bringing his customary Dark Elves. He did play Mark Wildman from the Bad Dice podcast on the upper tables at Adepticon and put Mark away. So, with Orcs and Goblins being so good in the Sweet format, maybe that pushed him in that direction. His opponent is none other than Lord Inquisitor. Lord Inquisitor to fame, Owen Whelan, our clubmate, both once bitten in eyes. And he's also what I like to call one of the 4 horsemen of American Warhammer with 6, 7, 8, or 9 GT wins or more. There's about 4 or 5 of them knocking on the door, which is just an amazing amount of wins when it takes some people, years to score 1, like myself. Now, Lord Inquisitor is bringing his Ogres army, and once bitten, you've played against this Ogre army more than once, as you two were online rivals for the longest time. And he kept winning, and you fell back to the mid-tables. So, what can you tell us about Lord Inquisitor or Owen Whelan's Ogre list? And then we'll go into Jeff with Alex's Orcs and Goblins.
I honestly don't remember that. I'm not just saying that. I'm like, I'd like to know what our win-loss ratio is against each other. I think it's I don't know.
Yeah.
But tell you what, Owen knows how to play him. Owen knows how not to lose. I'll give him that. He knows how not to give up big points. So, you want me to go over his list now?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, and I was just teasing, by the way.
Because I still remember that Chaos Dwarf game.
Oh, God, here we go.
All
Yeah,
day, all day.
yeah, yeah.
All right, so Lord Inquisitors bring in a Tyrant, Heavy Armor, Iron Fist, Sword of Anti-Heroes, Dragon Helm, Towel of Preservation, Trickster Shard. It's got a Slaughter Master, uh, Lord Maw, I assume. Fencers Blades, Glittering Scales, Scroll, Dragonbane Gem, Iron Curse Icon. It's got his BSB, the Rune Maw, Lookout Noblar, great weapon. Then in core, he's got his of course his 9 Iron Guts. He doesn't walk out the door without 9 Iron Guts in a unit. 3 Bulls, 13 Noblars, 3 Saber Tusks, 6 Man Eaters, and he's going with Poison and Stubborn, and a Brace of Pistols, and a Razor Standard, an Iron Blaster, and a Thunder Tusk. I don't know if I've seen him play a Thunder Tusk.
He played a Thunder Tusk the year before you moved back from. He's the first year. He won the GT with the Thunder Tusk.
Okay, all right.
But I don't know if I like it. He had some lead busters in there, I think, and he took them out for the Thunder Tusk. So I'm not sure how I feel about that pick, but we can always be critical of him later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's bringing his Death Star and a Man Eater unit, both very tough. He doesn't have heavy shooting. He's got an Iron Blaster and some pistols on the Man Eaters. He's certainly, I think, going to control a lot of the movement against a lot of armies. Well, except for the heavy mobile ones. Yeah, I don't know. This is a different list for him, but he knows how to play ogres, so give him that. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I wish it had heavens, especially for a matchup against orcs and goblins. It's good, and the Thunder Tusks are tough to kill. It doesn't seem as it's not certainly not as focused as the other ogre list was. The other ogre list definitely had one thing it intended to do, and I'm not sure this list is that much better. I mean, it's got the Tyrant, so it's going to hit a bit harder with the Iron Guts. It's got 2 extra Man Eaters, but yeah, I kind of like the other one more, and I think I'll go into Alex's list now. So I got to play Alex at Adepticon, and we battled to a draw on the at the end of the last round, which yeah, it was good fun. And I think he's a good player, fairly cautious, knows when to push, knows when to play it safe. Probably years of experience if I had to guess. So he's got Black Orc Warboss with the Crown of Command and a 4-up board. Orc Great Jawman, level 4, Spell Scroll, Talisman of Protection. It's got 3 Goblin Big Bosses, so 2 of those are the guys who zip around on wolves, making a menace of themselves. He's got 1 who's a BSB with the Spider Banner for some shooting. Now he's gone with quite a pretty decent core setups, in my opinion. So he's got 2 units of 5 Wolf Riders by the looks of it, with standard Musa, light armor, shield, spears, short bow. So these are relatively capable small units, and give him some good board control. He's got a unit of 5 Spider Riders with similar setups. So he's got his big unit of Savage Orcs of 40. And he's got these with full command and with bows. And I know once Bitten you said you're not a huge fan of bows, but I actually think in that quantity and with a Spider Banner, it's not a bad bet. That's what, 6.5, 6 2/3 poison hits a turn. It's gonna do a number on kind of the lighter chaffy units, and then 2 units of Error Boys. So he's gone with those over maybe a Fanatic delivery system. And I guess just looking for a few more bow shots to hit those Dark Riders, hit Saber Tusks, etc. 3 Goblin Wolf Chariots, not bad. They can leak points, but nothing too bad about it. 2 Rock Lobbers, 2 Doom Divers, and then a Ragnarok. So I think a little bit of a different approach and the other Orc and Goblin lists we've seen so far, in that it's not going to rely on trolls to smash things out. In fact, I'd go so far as to suggest that he's probably looking for a building to hide Savage Orc in for security, and the rest he plans to kind of MSU maneuver around and protect the best he can. Against the ogres, um, I think he might have a slight edge, given that the Iron Blaster doesn't do anything too crazy.
Yeah, it looks to me like Alex went for the school of the green dwarfs entirely, as opposed to a more balanced list like the other orc players we've seen. I do like the 3 single wolf chariots, though. That's pretty cool. Just to clear chaff. And of course, the Ragnarok has the poison surge, and it's not really good or anything, but I just like to say it.
I think this is a really bad matchup for Owen. I think that the Orcs and Goblins match up very nicely against him. Because Owen, he really doesn't have any shooting. He kind of has to go after it, and I said he has some chaff, but he doesn't have chaff to compare with what Orcs and Goblins can put out there.
Yeah, he's got hard choices to make. So he's got the 1 Iron Blaster. So does he open up with counter battery fire essentially on the Orc and Goblin war machines? Does he go for the big boy in terms of the Ragnarok, which is going to take at least 2 turns, probably 3 to 4? Yeah, he hasn't got many good choices. All his choices are kind of bad.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not easy points for that Iron Blaster for sure. Yeah, and I would traditionally say orcs have a better matchup against ogres, typically anyway. Those with the Crown of Command, those Savage Orcs aren't going anywhere. So, I mean, Owen could smash him if he gets 2 of the really hitty units in there. He could take them off in a hurry. But, if he gets bogged down with the Wolf Riders, the Chariots, the Chaff, and comes in with only 4 or 5 ogres, he's in trouble. It's time to pull back.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think if he pushed hard, I think he could be setting himself up for an all or nothing, with nothing far more likely.
I mean,
yeah, and Owen's not an all or nothing kind of player. I think that's going to be a real hard decision for him.
Yeah, I'd be, if I were the ogre player, I'd be looking to play pretty conservatively and use the Iron Blaster to take points while hanging back and trying not to concede too much. He's got level 4 Maw, so he can toughen himself up, which protects against the Doom Divers. Try to keep indirect shots only for the Rock Lobbers on the Iron Blaster and Thunder Tug. Like I said though, if he had Heavens, I'd be all for the ogres.
yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll get plenty of texts about it anyway. It's he does like to discuss lists, and he thinks about the game a lot, and that's what makes some players really good. Well, we are getting down to the last matchup for this episode. This is like a record for us, Once Bitten. Just a little over an hour and 15 minutes. We might wrap this one up in 90 minutes rather than the customary, 185 minutes. Last matchup that seems okay. You've got a dwarf player from the Northeast. He finished, I believe, 6th or 7th in his region, and he plays dwarves dedicated. He played them all year, smashed some people up. Keith Conroy, and his opponent is Chris Powell. He's at Failed Charge on Twitter. He's ranked 6th. He's a Canadian out of Vancouver, and he's ranked 6th in the new Pacific Northwest Division or region, and he's a member of the Hammerheads Club, and he's fielding the Dwarves' evil cousin. Now, I played this similar matchup, Dwarves against Chaos Dwarves, first round at Colonial Carnage last week, to the eventual winner of the event, and I'm interested to see if this battle goes the same way. I lost 11-9, but let's take a look at the list, and let's get your opinions on how you think they will do. Once Bitten, let's start with you and the Dwarves.
All right. So we have a Dwarf Lord on Shield Bearers, great weapon, Rune of Iron ×2, Rune of Stone. It's got a BSB Master Rune of, I don't even know how to pronounce that, Grungi, I guess. Grungi. 2 Rune Smiths. Both have the Rune of Spellbreaking ×2, one with Rune of Furnace, one with Rune of Fire. Master Engineer. 32 Longbeards with great weapons, Rune of Stoicism. 11 Warriors, Musician Standard Bearer Shields. 27 Hammers, full command. A Gyrocopter with Brimstone Gun. A Cannon. 2 Grudge Throwers, kitted out. One has Accuracy, Forging, and Penetrating. The other one has Accuracy, Forging, and Burning. Another Gyrocopter. And then an Organ Gun. So
12.1 count.
Yeah, 12.1 comp. Sorry about that. Yeah, so he's got a cannon, a organ gun, so some shooting, not heavy for a dwarf necessarily, but they're just so accurate with everything. And then some copters to throw things down, grudge throwers. Yeah, it looks like a dwarf list.
Yeah. Well, the grudge throwers do have, I think the accuracy was helps with the blocking line of sight.
Yeah. I mean, he's if he wants, he's going to be able to sit back in a corner and just start picking apart points. People need to get to him, and then the question is, can 27 hammers and 32 longbeards stand up to it? And they might be able to,
Cool. Well, I'll crack into the Chaos Dwarfs then. So he's gone with no lords, and so I'll preface this all with I'm not actually too sure on Chaos Dwarfs in Swedish. I've never seen them used, so I'm not entirely sure why some choices were made. But anyways, 2 Demon Smiths, one with Ruby Ring, one with Spell Scroll, and they're just both level 1 Lords of Fire. Hobgoblin Khan, who's on Giant Wolf, so he's pretty much doing the Orc Goblin boss thing where you just run around being a dickhead on a wolf. Core is 34 Infernal Guard with full command, Fireblade, Center Discipline. Now, I don't know how Hobgoblins are comped in Swedish, but I do know that Infernal Guard are a pretty ineffective choice. So interesting that he chose to go with one big unit, which really limits what he can do.
Points now.
What's that?
Try to do points now from the looks of things.
Yeah, probably. I mean, that is a lot of Infernal Guard to kill, but it's not going to kill too much. Although with that many fire glaives, it can play into killing Dark Riders. He's got 8 Bull Centaur renders, which are all good by me. Additional hand weapons. These guys just can be vulnerable for a character such as a Chaos Lord or a Dreadlord on a peg. Because without the great weapons, they're a pretty safe place to hang out and shoot through people. 2 Deathstreaker rockets, nothing wrong with those. 2 Hellbound Iron Demon War Engines, which are pretty gnarly beasts if you know how to use them, but there's also some pretty solid counters to them as well. And the Venerable Kadai Destroyer. So, my thoughts, I'm not a huge fan in terms of, I don't think has not got very good magic. He's just got a lot of, he's got a lot of fireballs. But at level 1s, when a lot of armies move rock level 4s, you're a dice down. I'm not sure always going to get through and be the thing that you need. And certainly against dwarfs, it's not the thing you need. Infernal Guard are probably not going to add too much in a dwarf versus Chaos Dwarf matchup. Bull Centaur renders are actually pretty good in a Chaos Dwarf versus dwarf matchup. And Demon Engines, Kadai's, decent. But I think my pick is the classic dwarfs for this one. I think they've got more firepower with the gyrocopters. They have that bit more maneuverability. That's going to see the Iron Demons get probably railroaded. And I think the Kadai Destroyer should be able to be dropped by the Dwarven shooting.
Yeah. I would agree. As a Chaos Dwarf player, I've played this matchup. The one thing that sticks out, I do not like the lack of Lord on the Chaos Dwarfs. Um, just because if you're going to take a infantry unit, um, just take the lore of Hashut. It gives you range. It's a great lore. I don't to have that low of a comp and no level 4 lore of Hashut to me is bad news. He's getting dinged on two Demon Smiths, and they both take penalties because they have the Demon Smith rule for comp, and he has 2 Death Shriekers to go with it. You could really just have one level 4 and have him, if your plan is just to sit back in that bunker, just have the level 4 hang out with both of the Death Shriekers. You know what I mean? That said, the Death Shriekers, they do have artillery rerolls. Basically, to handle the doors, I think what this guy needs to do is my one Death Shrieker killed all 3 of his artillery of the dwarf player I was playing last event. Because what happens is the dwarf player has to focus on the big stuff coming at him, so the Chaos Dwarf artillery can focus on the counter battery fire, kill the counter battery fire, and if he gets an Iron Demon into those hammers, if he doesn't have a Killy Lord, he can hammer away all he wants and he'll just get ground out. But it really depends on how soon he gets there and if he can clear those gyrocopters. And that's the one reason I don't like the 8 full Centaur renders. I like smaller units because you have no way to get rid of the. You have one Hobgoblin Khan, but he's not going to do anything. He can't stop both of the gyrocopters. You know.
Yeah, the trick is going to be to essentially get those gyrocopters into a combat with the Iron Demons, with the gyrocopters charging, obviously, where the other units can't come in and support it, because the Iron Demons, if they're not charging, will never kill those gyros. And then they're out of the game. And once they're out of the game and all the shooting can go onto the Kadai, the dwarfs are up by a long ways. Those hammers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's what hurts this particular Chaos Dwarf list, because he doesn't have the smaller units to scrape off the people from pinning his Iron Demons. What the Iron Demons would be forced to move 6 and use their range to keep the gyrocopters away, so they won't chap up the destroyer. Because if one of the choppers veers too close, the Iron Demons will take it down with shooting. What happens is that slows his advance as a whole, and all the artillery won't just target that Kadai. Sooner or later, it's magical attacks, doesn't get rerolls. 4 up ward, the Kadai could be dead meat turn 1 unless there's a big hill in the middle, and at which case then it's time for the Chaos Dwarfs to pack up, hide behind a hill, and hopefully can survive the artillery barrage, which they should be able to manage. I don't think if they want to go 10-10 on this, that's very, very, very possible.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they're both designed to play a relatively similar kind of game, and I think the dwarves do it better between these 2 lists. And when the Chaos Dwarves, if they wanted to go aggressively win it, they're not built for that, and they're going to lose the shootout with them. So my prediction would be like a 13-7 for the dwarves.
Okay, yeah, I think a small one for the dwarves, maybe not 13, but 11, 12, something like that. Yeah, so it's similar ballpark.
Okay. Well, I guess with that, that wraps up the episode 3 for the U.S. Masters. Jeff, it was our pleasure to have you. I don't know if there's. I know you've lived in the States and got some word on the Masters. I don't know if you follow Twitter and follow the stuff. What are your thoughts compared to even your own Masters, and with just the volume of players we're bringing before we go? What do you think?
Well, I think so. I think it's a bit of a feat, not to blow smoke up your ass, but it's a feat of organization that. So the New Zealand Masters has 10 to 12 players, and that's out of a player pool of about 150, 160. In a relatively small country, it only takes an hour and a half to fly from one of the main centers to any of the other main centers. So it's it's pretty low key to organize. We have it in a school hall, whereas I think you've got 100 players at the U.S. Masters, or is it
70, 78.
78. It's pretty impressive being able to bring all that together, especially with managing the very different attitudes towards the game that there seems to be in the States. You have uh, the classic is the Northeast, very ETC focused, very into comp and playing, and that generates most of what I think is a pretty effective U.S. Warhammer team compared to some of the you read about the newer regions where they want a more holistic approach to the hobby. So it's yeah, a bit of a tricky balancing act, but it definitely gets the coverage and people are interested. So looking forward to seeing how things end up.
Any uh, final thoughts or ways to get in touch with you and check out your podcast? When's the next episode coming out? Or
Yeah, so we've been on a bit of a hiatus, which is what happens when you go back to work and are no longer on a holiday.
Hmm.
But yeah, hopefully we've got the New Zealand Teams Championships, which is our biggest tournament. So that's 16 four-player teams in kind of a mini ETC type format. So that's coming up in about 2 weeks. So I'm frantically painting for that, and I'll probably do an episode about how that goes. So that should be cool. Got a lot of top teams, top guys from New Zealand, and some from Australia coming over. So I'll hopefully have a new episode up in a week or two.
yeah,
And
well,
yeah, you can check that out at kiwihammer.co.nz.
cool. Well, I really, I guess we both appreciated you getting up at 6 a.m. on Sunday morning, your time, to sign in. I guess going forward to the audience, we will be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, with our guest Furion from Poland, and he will also be kind of playing catch up because he is, I think, 8 hours ahead of us, so he'll be well into his day. And then at noon tomorrow, we will be finishing up the U.S. Masters Episode 5 with Dan Heelan of Heelan Hammer. He's usually our closer. Aside from that, follow all the news on Wargamers USA. You can follow the details at US_WFB_Masters on Twitter. Of course, once bitten, there's your channel that has several thousand followers. And I think that's it. Any last thoughts, anybody?
No, man, that was fun. Jeff, it was nice talking with you.
Yeah, good to meet you, mate, and thanks for having me, guys. Good luck to everyone at the U.S. Warhammer Masters.
Yeah, well, let us know when you come back into the States, or even on Universal Battle. We'll play some more games.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll keep in touch.
All right.
Cheers, guys.
Sure.
Thanks.